Good morning and welcome back to the Hootie Who KSU football podcast. We are getting ready for week one, and yes, those of you out there know, we had the first week's games this past weekend, week 0 games. So definitely took those all in yesterday with Kansas State, Iowa State starting us off yesterday. Decent game, a little sloppy, but Iowa State held on to win that game. Later in the day, we got Kansas blowing out Fresno State. That was really the only lopsided game. I took in the Western Kentucky and the Sam Houston State game, which is good. I mean, those are future opponents for Kennesaw State, so it was good to watch them. Pass heavy from the Western Kentucky side, so I thought that worked out well. We'll talk about that down the road, but Kennesaw State's strength is definitely the secondary, so it's a good matchup there. Finished up last night with Hawaii and Stanford. Another good game. And Hawaii gets the win in Aloha Stadium. So it was a good first day. Kind of thought about a little bit about the upcoming week and what to expect from the season, but we are here. We have survived the doldrums of winter and summer, and college football is finally upon us. So, keeping that in mind, like and subscribe to the show. Please support the show through the Etsy store. Hats, shirts, all sorts of fun things, stickers, anything you want to support the show, and all profits go back into the program. So thank you for being here. We're ready, guys. We are ready. So I will be at the stadium on Friday to cover this game for the channel. Do a review of the game probably Sunday of next week. And then, now the schedule starts. So we'll do a preview of the opponent coming up. We'll do a review after the game's completed. And again, rinse and repeat, preview the opponent, review the game, preview the opponent, etc. So I'm excited to be here. I truly am, because as y'all know, June, July are rough months to cover college football because there just really isn't a lot going on. And unless the camps are open to the outside, you're just making predictions based on, what someone else said or what a coach's impression was of a player during a practice. So those are always tough to make any concrete decisions from. What we know for sure is Dexter Williams will be our starting quarterback. We know that the secondary is strong. We know we're running a 3-3-5 defense. We know that with Jerry Mack's first year at Kennesaw State, that it'll be more of a spread, high-speed kind of offense. It's just going to move with tempo. I think that if you might watch the UNLV game yesterday versus Idaho State, I think that UNLV offense will be something similar to kind of what you're seeing. That was a great game, by the way. And yeah, so, at least we kind of have some idea of what we're looking at. I was watching last night the Hawaii and Stanford game, and there was definitely some reference to the 3-3-5 defense as well. So I was kind of paying attention to that a little bit, seeing how important the nose tackle is to that defensive formation. So, yeah, you start kind of getting ideas of what you're going to be looking at until you see with your own eyes and you see kind of the players in their roles. You don't have a definitive take on what to expect from this year, but, you're starting to get some ideas. So, talking about this game on Friday against Wake Forest. So, let's get the ugly stuff out of the way real fast. The game's opening up as a 17.5 road underdog. That's Kennesaw State's a 17.5 point underdog. So if you're betting for Kennesaw State, that means you start the game off at 17.5. So that's fun. In all seriousness, though, it does show what Vegas feels is to be expected for this game, that it's a very one-sided game, very comfortable home win for Wake Forest. That's what Vegas would tell you. But, from just past experience, week 1 and week 2 especially are just crazy weeks. You just never know what to expect. They're messy just because they don't have preseason games in college. So you have no idea kind of what is coming when these games kick off. I feel like if ever there was a time to catch a team off guard, I think it's week 1, because they're still working out things on their own end. Additionally, with Wake Forest in particular, as I'll go into in just a second, they're kind of starting from scratch as well. So if ever there was a time to sneak up on someone and pull an upset, it could be this weekend. I mean, it would definitely be this first week, given that they don't know kind of what they have yet either. So that's definitely to Kennesaw State's advantage. So keeping that in mind, let's go ahead and preview Wake Forest a little bit. So the stadium, a Legacy Federal Credit Union Stadium, seats 31,500. Those of you who have seen Wake Forest play in the last decade or so will be used to their unique offense, which is a slow mesh. Basically, the quarterback holds onto the ball a great deal of time longer than normal to read what the defense is doing and either pulls it and runs it themselves or hands it off to the running back. But it's a very strange offense, how long they take to make that final decision. Now, the reason I bring this up is because that offense is no more. The slow mesh is now gone. Dave Clawson was there for a long while. The last two seasons, Wake Forest had finished with losing records, 4-5 in both seasons, did not make a bowl game. So the idea was for Dave Clawson to move on, which he had retired this offseason, and a new coach, Jake Dickett, is the new head coach at Wake Forest. So no longer do you have the slow mesh. You have a power spread option with a lot of emphasis on the outside zone. So a power spread offense, which is, it's an interesting term. But, I mean, basically what that means is that Wake Forest is going to line up and spread teams out, but the tight ends, the offensive line, are meant for a power running attack. So a lot of pulls, a lot of stunts, etc. by the offensive line. Now, the problem lies then right there with Wake Forest is that the offensive line is completely remade. They had to completely make the offensive line based on transfer portals. So they're having to kind of glue things together to come up with an offensive line. One consistent for Wake Forest is the running back. Damon Claiborne is the running back's name. He's a senior. He's a good player. I've seen him a few times over the last couple of years. He's definitely a solid running back, but like any running back or quarterback for that matter, if you don't have a line blocking for you, we'll see. We'll see what you can do and how many holes you can open up. Another problem that Wake Forest has is that they really have not decided on who their starting quarterback is. It's between two different players, Robbie Ashford from South Carolina and Deshaun Purdy from Charlotte. Based on this past weekend's news and notes, it looks like Purdy had 3 interceptions during practice, but that he is still who they're leaning to start the game. I think you'll see both quarterbacks against Kennesaw State kind of see who's successful, maybe go with the hot hand and keep that quarterback in there consistently if they're being successful against Kennesaw State. But having a 2 quarterback system, I can't think of a time when that's been the best system in the world. Maybe if I go back to Florida when they had Chris Leak and Tebow came in his freshman year as just a kind of a running back, that was successful for 2 quarterbacks. But other than that, 2 quarterback usually is never a great system, just because no one ever gets really hot. So I don't know. I can't think of anybody off the top of my head where I've seen a 2 quarterback system be successful when leading an offense. So I think that Wake Forest would like to probably figure out who their starter is and just roll with that person. But right now, so far, they have not named a starter. Secondly, the only returning wide receiver is Micah Mays. So they've had to bring in a lot of portal players as well. Basically, Wake Forest, I keep doing that. Wake Forest lost a lot of players to the transfer portal when Dave Clawson had left as well. So they were recruited to Wake Forest to play underneath Coach Clawson. He leaves, a lot of players leave. It's very familiar with Kennesaw State, and maybe that's why I'm getting them confused, is when Coach Bohannon left, you have Coach Mack coming in, you have a lot of players leaving, a lot of Kennesaw State's team has been put together through the portal. So very similar, different levels of leagues as far as Conference USA versus the ACC. But again, first week, new coaching staff. I think it's wide open. I'm not saying that you should gamble on anything, but 17.5 is a lot, I think, without knowing what's coming. But you have to, gambling is gambling. So you're definitely gambling there. I do not partake, so I will not be touching that. But like I said, 17.5 with a bunch of unknowns is something to definitely, I think, consider. One thing Wake Forest does have going for it, if its three leading tacklers are returning. Nick Anderson is a safety. Dylan Hazen is a linebacker, and Devon Patterson is a nickelback. So the secondary, has some experience coming back, but you do not hear me say anything about defensive linemen. So again, if you are Kennesaw State and you're running a spread attack, which is mainly going to be running to set up a deep pass and throwing a deep pass over the top to kind of keep the defense honest, that works out really well with kind of what you're seeing against Wake Forest defense. On the flip side, when you're looking at an outside run scheme, which is what Wake Forest is going to, outside zone, the strength of Kennesaw State's, again, similar to Wake Forest, is going to be linebackers and corners. So I think these are very similar teams. I mean, even the uniforms are similar in color scheme. There's a lot to this season that you have two teams that are trying to right the ship, bringing in new coaching staffs, turning around the last two seasons of having losing records. It's definitely going to be fascinating to kind of see what happens when these two teams match up. One thing I would say to keep an eye out, especially if you want the upset, especially if you're on the road with an unknown, is the place kickers. The place kicker for Wake Forest, his long is 46. He is incredibly inconsistent, 42 of 57, I think, last year with place kicking. So that is also a good thing. So you don't have a kicker that you have to worry about dropping 55-yarders on you. Basically, if Wake Forest cannot move the ball to like the 25, then they're probably not kicking a field goal, and they're going for it. So it also makes it predictable about what's going to happen from a defensive point of view. The 3-3-5 is known for being able to hide multiple looks, multiple pressures. You can't get a read of where pressure is coming from because it's always moving around. So I think it's a fascinating matchup. I've really liked this game even since February when we first hop on here to kind of discuss it as far as what we thought was going to happen. Where do you think the upsets would be? And I like the possibility of an upset in this game more than week 2 at Indiana. I just think Wake Forest is in a vulnerable place, still trying to figure out who they are as a team and what their identity is. Very few returners from the last season. Anytime you bring in a new coaching staff, especially late, you're playing so much catch up. All the good players have been taken. Wake Forest isn't what I would say would be your ideal destination as a player, simply because the academic standards are so high that not just anybody can get into Wake Forest. Wake Forest isn't really a football school as it is more basketball would be their concentration. Academics are really what drives Wake Forest, but basketball, they definitely are paying attention a lot more to basketball than football, and that has shown on the field, to be honest with you. So we'll see kind of how that shakes out, but I'll be there, and I'll give you a review of kind of what I'm seeing from an in-person viewpoint of the game, and kind of where we can grow going forward. That game will be on ESPNU. Kickoff is 7 o'clock on Friday night. That is that's August 29th. And then we have a full slate of games starting on Saturday. So check out Wake Forest, Kennesaw State that evening. Come on back and on Saturday, and you've just got, one spectacular game after the other that first weekend. Kind of wraps up Sunday and Monday. Sunday, you've got Miami versus Notre Dame. Monday, you've got North Carolina versus TCU. So again, it's a great weekend of college football next weekend. Not that it was a nice little appetizer this past weekend, but to kind of amp up the level of talent is going to be, it's going to be great to see. It's great to have it back. It truly is. It's been a long time of baseball and golf tournaments and stuff like that, just to kind of get you through the summer. Anytime there's not like a World Cup or Euros or anything like that, that also, I mean, that's just something that can be watched during the summer and helps you get through the doldrums of the summer. But anytime you get to this place, congratulations, you've made it. We've all made it, and here we go. It's always amazing how fast it feels like it goes by. Now with the extended playoffs or the new playoff system, it's going to last a little bit longer, but it still always seems to fly by. And then we go and do this slow period again. No, I'm very excited. I'm very excited to kind of see what it's like to cover this team. It has, the reason I chose this team, and I said this a while back, was the potential is there to really be covering something special in the very beginning. And what I mean by that is just that story is so unique. This new football program that's been around for 10 years, being successful in Division II, moving up to Division I, not being as successful, but how do you, with a new coaching system, a new staff, and new philosophies, both offensive and defensively, is this just the next logical move when you make that transition to Division I? The bar's not real high. 2 wins in 2 years, right? So, the goal would be to surpass that. Very low bar, which I think is very doable based on what we kind of looked at with the schedule earlier this past season. And we'll talk about it as we move forward. I think that if you can come away with your first 3 games being 2-1, which is not supposed to happen, if you could do it, then that really, really sets you up for something special as the year continues. Most likely it's 1-2. And then we start talking about conference play, and we'll get into all that based on what these teams are. We're going to learn a lot in the next 2 weeks from all of these teams. If you look at the preseason stuff and what they think is going to happen, they don't know. They don't know any better than you and I know. They just are basing it on last year's results. They're basing it on the talent that they perceive to be coming back. But, for example, Arch Manning got the last name, got the team, supposed to be all-world. Already talking about Heisman's. He's not really started in a hostile environment before. The only places that he started were against low-level teams. So who knows? I mean, at the end of the day, it's still a kid who's walking into this Texas team with all the pressure on him. I mean, who knows what happens there? People talk about, an Alabama team with Ryan Williams or Ohio State with Jeremiah Smith. Yes, they are incredible players, but what about the team? What about the team around them? Are Alabama and Ohio State going to be better than most teams? Of course they are. Of course they are. But can you say that they're going to go and win a national title? Well, no, not until you see kind of how these quarterbacks play out, kind of the ups and downs, how the schedule breaks down, when you play who and what they're looking like, how no one's kind of not really talking about Georgia is funny to me. I'm not a huge Georgia fan, but I respect the talent and the coaching to know that they are very much going to be in contention, but you don't really hear a lot about Georgia. A lot of hype around Penn State, based on what? Based on Franklin having a difficult time winning any big games? This is going to be the year where he's going to go into Ohio State and win? I mean, that's probably unlikely. We'll see. I mean, like I said, that's the great thing about it, is we will find out. They'll play it on the field, and we'll see kind of what we have coming back as the season progresses. On the Conference USA, from a Conference USA point of view, a couple announcements this past year is that they're going to go to a new kind of replay system. And this replay system is going to involve a central location, almost like a command center like they do in the NFL. And it's going to be a collaborative review system to make sure that they get the plays right. So that's new. I like that. What else? They're talking about, I saw in the NFL how they're using the technology to place the ball, so hopefully that trickles down to all the sports as well. I mean, I don't know why we haven't done that forever. Instead of relying on some old men to spot a ball, you can just use a chip in the ball, and that'll tell you all you need to know. Tennis has been doing it for a long time, as of other sports, soccer, everything. So I'm curious to see where that goes. No, I think Conference USA is in a good spot. I think, again, they're just trying to be consistent. You're going to lose 2 teams at the end of this season, but I like kind of the direction they're heading in. They're trying to be as thoughtful as possible with the teams that they have playing as far as when they're going to be broadcast, the partnerships they have with television, and doing everything they can from a lower level conference, that continues to be rated in their most high profile teams being removed and moving to other conferences. And as you have this conference realignment happening over the next few years, that's going to happen more and more, kind of what teams are where, what conferences survive, which ones don't survive. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens with all that stuff. Group of 5 favorite is Boise State because, of course, they are. They always are. They primitive or whatever word I'm looking for. Group of 5 winners. I mean, everybody always believes that they're going to be the best one, but who knows? Who knows? Looking at the top 25, and I know I'm kind of all over the place right now, but I'm just excited about the season. But looking at the top 25, like in Arizona State at number 11, for example, based on what? Last year, right? But they lost most of their team from last year. So, are they really going to be number 11 again? I mean, that's a tough call. The SEC groupings in the top 10, top 15, it's like, all right. I mean, again, they play each other. I did see that the NCAA put out that your strength of schedule is coming back. So we've got the old strength of schedule. Again, one of the more subjective tools that have been used in the past is the strength of schedule. It's subjective because who's to say who's this great? If only SEC teams play SEC teams, for example, is the SEC the strongest, or do we just not have a good enough sample size of what is the best and what is weak? I mean, a lot of times in the past when we would go with that argument that, oh, well, because they're in the SEC, they must be really great. When they went and played in neutral site games against the Big Ten, against other conferences, they didn't do so well. Now, the excuse is they just didn't care as much. That's always a good one. But the other team, I guess, did. So it's tough to kind of quantify that. I don't love strength of schedule because it's so subjective of what you believe, and there's not a lot of details there. Where is it located? When is it taking place? How hostile of an environment are you walking into? LSU as a night game, tough game to play at, for sure. The Swamp at night, hard game to play in, for sure. But if Florida succumbs to that schedule, which is absurd for the second year in a row, Florida is a team that has a losing record, let's say hypothetically, right? Was that as hard as an environment to play in? Well, yeah, it is. But no one's going to take that in consideration. They're just going to look at wins and losses and say, Florida was 6-6, even though they lost to 6 top 10 ranked teams. But at the same time, they're still 6-6. That win doesn't count as much if you were able to go in there and get a win. So there's all those kind of ideas that are subjective. Like I said, they're definitely creating an environment where the Big Ten and the SEC will get 4 teams into the playoff every year. That's really what they're setting this up as. And they're going to use the excuse, I'm giving you a 3-month prediction, they're going to use the excuse that these conferences were the toughest to put in, so their teams should be considered with 3 or 4 losses versus another team with 1 or 2 losses from a lesser conference. It's the same argument every year, just rinse and repeat. That's what will come, and there'll be controversy still. But as I've said in the past, once you start getting into 12, 14, 16 teams in a playoff, I don't really care about the 16th or 17th team of who should have gone, or the 12th and 13th team for that matter of who should have gone. Put yourself in a position to be in the top 12. If not, then I don't want to hear about you not winning a national title. So that's just my philosophy. You can disagree. I'm sure they'll make it controversial, but if you're in the, we're going to need we're going to need the number 12 seed or the number 14 seed or whenever it goes to 16, the number 16 seed to win the national title to have the argument of whether that 16th, 17th, 14th, 15th, or 12th, 13th team should have been the playoffs. Because if the last seed to get into any tournament gets bounced out every single year, as they should, by the number, 4 seed, 3 seed, 2 seed, then there's really no argument to make. There really isn't. Win another game and don't be on the bubble of getting in. Plenty of college basketball teams, college baseball teams over the years with these larger tournaments were bubble teams, and they weren't able to get in as well. And, they were able to survive and move on. So we'll see. We'll see. Like I said, it's exciting to be back. I cannot wait. You will hear so many predictions of what's going to happen this year, especially in the next week. Texas winning it all, Ohio State repeating, Penn State finally getting the monkey off their back, etc., etc. Just remember, they're just trying to keep you engaged, entertained. No one knows. No one knows. If you want to go out on a limb, there'll be a very dominant SEC team. There'll be a dominant Big Ten team. There'll be a good Big 12 team that maybe can make some noise. And from there, Notre Dame will be there regardless. But it's still going to come down to the 4 or 5 teams that have the biggest budgets in the sport. So you're looking at Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, Texas for sure. One of those teams is probably win the national title. It's not much of a mystery. And until we even out the revenue distribution, it's not going to make much of a difference. I would love for an upset to happen. I would love for an Arizona State, for example, last year to win the whole thing. I will root for that every single year because I'm aware of it, as is am I listening to this program, that it is really just a few elite teams that have more money to spend than anybody else, and they continue to play for national titles. So maybe this is the year it changes. Here's hoping. But that's not why you tuned in. You tuned in to listen about the preview for the Wake Forest Kennesaw State game next week. I'm excited about it. Can't wait to be there. It's going to be a false fall next week weather-wise, so expect some cool fall weather as well during the days when you're waking up, which is awesome. Can't wait to go up to the stadium, check it out, see what Snuggy Hill's all about. Those of you who know about the old Snuggy Hill. It looks like a lot of fun, and nothing more fun than checking out college campuses as well. So I'm really excited about it. I'll come on probably Saturday, Sunday of next week and kind of just do a review of what I saw, what I think going into the second week, and also the season, if there's anything we can pick up. I'm fascinated. I really am. But my prediction is Kennesaw State plays a heck of a game. I do not believe they lose by 17.5. And depending on some kicking issues, if there are any, it could be a close game. I believe that if you're looking at the season, if you're only looking about weeks 1 and 2, which one is a better chance to upset, it's this one over the Indiana game. I just think that Wake Forest has a lot of question marks that they're going to need to sort out really quick. So let's see what happens. Let's go Owls. Let's get a win. Shock the world and get the season off to a great start. That'd be great. Again, like and subscribe. Thanks for listening, and I will see you next Sunday. All right. Have a great day, guys. Bye.